Hello again, everybody. Welcome to the Mike Francesa podcast on the Bet Rivers Network, brought to you by Casamigos Tequila. Casamigos Tequila is brought to you by those who drink it. We come to you on this Tuesday morning on the Mike Francesa channel, on the Bet Rivers Network, on YouTube of Super Bowl week. So now we can count it down. Everybody's in New Orleans. Maybe not enough fans to make people happy, as I'll get to in a couple minutes, but the teams are ready to go. The line has not moved an inch. Two good teams ready to face each other, know each other well, and we know the stars, the storylines, and everything else. So we're ready to go. Now, a couple things. Uh, I will do programs all week leading up. We'll have a show each day tomorrow, Thursday, Friday in the morning, including our last Football Friday show of the season on Friday morning. Then we'll do a post Super Bowl program. Uh, I don't think I'd do anything special on the Hall of Fame, although I really hope Eli gets in. I do. I think he's a Hall of Famer. I'd like to see him get in this year. Hopefully he does. I would. I'd make me happy if he gets in. I like Eli a lot personally, but forget that. I think he's a Hall of Famer. I think he's earned his way to the Hall of Fame. Um, and let's see what happens there. Um, the biggest story so far has been the crashing of the ticket prices, and they have crashed. The question is why? All right. Here are the reasons in descending order. Number one, I don't know the reason for this, but there is insane gouging going on with hotel rooms in New Orleans. I don't know why. Now, there's plenty of hotels in New Orleans. There's some really nice hotels in New Orleans, but they're charging the big hotels, the really good hotels, are charging 4,000 a night and minimum 3 nights. You got hotels that charge usually 198 on a regular night are charging 2,000 bucks, and you got to give them 3 nights. So nobody, when they hear these packages, wants to pay for the hotel room. They'll pay for the ticket. They know they got to spring for the ticket. First of all, the face of the ticket's not cheap. The most expected, barring any ticket that has something assigned to it, a regular ticket, the most expensive regular ticket is 5,000 face. If you get a really good 50-yard line seat there, the face on the ticket's 5,000 bucks. Now, that's a lot of money. There might be a couple where they give you certain things where they have it jacked up a little more, but that's still an expensive ticket. The cheapest ticket in the building, I'm not sure, but I'd say it's at least 1,500. It might be 2,000, but I think it might be 1,500 for the cheapest ticket. 600 level in that building behind the goalpost. I still think that's going to be 1,500 to get in. So that ticket right now is going for 3 grand, which is not bad. Really outrageous. A lot cheaper than it's been in recent years. And if you've ever wanted to go to a Super Bowl, this is the year to go. And I'll tell you how to go in a minute if you want to go on it cheap. Now, because I've been in New Orleans a million times and I've been to, you know, 30 some odd Super Bowls. So uh, I know the lay of the land. And I know the lay of the land in New Orleans too. Um, the other reasons are number one, some people are down in New Orleans because of what happened there recently. I think that's a smaller factor, not a big factor. Um, the Eagles being there 3 straight years, there's clearly a malaise. As a matter of fact, of the tickets being sold, and everything now is sold on the secondary market. There's nothing that isn't secondary market right now. So whether you're buying a package from the NFL or you're buying it on, any of the companies that sell the tickets. I don't want to give anyone a plug over the other. Um, you are buying it on a secondary market. It's a jacked up price. But They're not getting a lot for the tickets right now. They're way down, and it's only Tuesday. They're going to go down, go down. You can play the game here, go into that town on Saturday, and I'm telling you, you're going to get a cheap ticket. You're going to get in at almost face. Eagle fans aren't going. Matter of fact, Eagle fans are going to outnumber Chief fans in the building without any question. The tickets being bought on the secondary market are 3-1 Eagle tickets. Um, if Buffalo had made this game, if the Lions had made this game, the ticket prices would be double what they are right now because they would have bought up the entire building. But they've been there 3 years in a row. You can say what you want, but people who have gone to the Super Bowl and won, and with Kansas City, they've been to a lot of Super Bowls recently. Every year, even as a diehard fan, you might say, "Hey, I'm not springing this year. I'm not making the trip this year. I'm staying home this year. We'll watch it on TV this year." Okay. If you've been there that many times, you can get tired of the Super Bowl. I sure have. I mean, we went every year, obviously. I went from the late 70s on. I mean, I've been to the Super Bowl 1,000 times, but there were years where I didn't like the game very much. So I'd leave on Saturday night, watch it on TV. Or times I'd watch the game. So, I mean, it was pretty much split as to whether I stayed on Sunday or not. I'd say I stayed probably 70% of the time. Um, so the Kansas City malaise is part of it. New Orleans is a part of it. Gouging the hotels is a big part of it. So the ticket prices are way down. Now, if you're a diehard Eagle or Chief fan, or you just always wanted to go to a Super Bowl, what I would suggest is this: fly in to, if you have to take a plane, if not, you can drive uh, into New Orleans. And I would say stay somewhere about 300 miles out and then drive in the day of the game. It'd be a lot cheaper. Stay in Biloxi, Mississippi, or somewhere else in Louisiana. Um, you'll be able to get a ticket. You go in there on Saturday night if you don't want to wait till Sunday, but you could go in on Sunday and get it. But you go in there Saturday night and you go downtown, there'll be people selling tickets everywhere, everywhere, because this ticket is absolutely doing a complete nosedive. It has dropped a ton. I mean, it's the cheapest ticket we've seen in recent Super Bowls in a long time. So you could go in there, and I'm telling you, you drive in, and listen, you're not going to get within 30 miles of the Superdome. You know that. You park your car somewhere, and then get yourself into town any way you can. Go to the game. You know, hook up with a driver and get yourself a ride home afterwards. But you leave when you leave. But the point is, you can get in that game and get out, and get in there at a good price. There's no question about it. This might be a year for that, because this ticket is just, if it's dropping like this on Tuesday, it is not going to reverse. It's not going to all of a sudden get hot. The game, I've heard the same thing from everybody. Oh, I'm so tired of Kansas City. Listen, I have great respect for what Kansas City has done, and I have no problem watching them. I enjoy watching them. So I don't have a problem that they're there. But remember, I'm going to watch any football game anyway, so I'm not a good one to judge. But I've heard from so many people. I've even heard from people in the business who have said to me, "I'm so tired. I wanted the Bills to be there. I wanted the Lions to be. I wanted the Lions to be there, just so we would have some excitement. There would be some real excitement about those teams going and trying to win a Super Bowl. These teams have won Super Bowls, and they just played each other recently. And the Chiefs are there every year, and it's got a little tedious. Now, not to the Chiefs, of course, and I think it'll be a good game. But as far as the buzz, this is the year where it has just fallen off a cliff. I mean, when you see 3,000 for get-ins on Tuesday, that ticket's going a lot. And I'll tell you, Usually, when a game is hot, you know it the week before. You know it by the time you hit New Orleans. When a game's cold, you know it by the time you get to the city. And this game is ice, ice cold. Now, we'll get to the game more in the days to come. Hey, we can spend a lot of time on it. We will as we get later in the week. Um, on the football stuff, I was going to now comment on the Jets staff because it's fairly complete or pretty much complete. But I really, in looking at it, my reaction has to be based on one piece of information because it changes everything, and that is whether or not Rodgers is going to be here. How I look at this staff, especially the offensive part of it, depends greatly on whether or not you have a experienced, immortal, aging quarterback there, or you have a journeyman, or you have a rookie. The quarterback will change things dramatically. Now, let me just say in passing, I called Westhoff about Banjo. He didn't call me back yet. So I was going to do that today, ask him. But Banjo learned under Westhoff. That's good enough for me, number one. I bet you Westhoff's going to tell me. And Westhoff and I always talk on the phone. We have for years. We always had a good relationship. And I have a lot of respect for Westhoff, who's as good a special teams coach as we've ever seen. And he'll tell you that himself. Banjo has been brought up the right way. So I like the idea that he's young and aggressive and hungry and everything as a special teams coach. So I like that. I have no problem with Wilkes as the defensive coordinator. He's a good coach. He's a sound, solid guy. I have no problem with him. Um, I do have some issues with the offensive coaches, but I want to put it in the perspective of what they are working with because I think it makes all the difference. And that's why I'll wait on them until I know where because Aaron said it will not be long before they make a decision on Rodgers. All right, you are a little more than a month. Today's the 4th. I think the 12th is the day that we start getting into serious business with the NFL. So we got a month, 5 weeks to the NFL season starts, so free agency starts, and we know where everything fits. I think Rodgers is going to play next year in this league. I hope it's with the Jets because I've told you this. If the Jets will do things the right way, and I think having those coaches, and I don't mean this to be derogatory, but having the past coaching regime out the door improves them by 4 games minimum. Even if these guys are just fair, that raises the bar enormously because that staff last year was about as bad a group as I have ever witnessed. Ever. And guys who didn't get attention at different positions. And I'm not going to single them out now because there's no reason because they're gone. But there were positions that there were huge problems, especially on offense. So thankfully they're gone. Am I in love with the offensive setup that I see presented here? I am not. But I'm going to wait. So I like the defensive hire and no problem. I like the special teams hire, although I haven't talked to him about Banjo yet. I don't know Banjo. No one does. He's a young guy. Hasn't even been a full position coach yet. This is his first go around. He was an assistant special teams coach. Um, but I like that. And I think he was taught obviously through the Westhoff school, which is good enough for me. And I'm sure Westhoff's going to give him his stamp of approval when I talk to him. And then we get to the offense, which, like I said, not thrilled about, but I'll wait. Let's see what happens. And listen, if they are smart, They bring Rodgers and Adams back. And Wilson's not going anywhere. Okay. And I personally don't think Wilson's as good as some people do. He's got to show me more. But he has ability. But I don't put him in the league with the top guys. Not yet. He hasn't earned that. They need a tight end. I would love them to get a tight end. I'll tell you something. If they drafted the Penn State tight end, I'd be very happy. That guy's going to be. I think he goes in the top 10, and he is a stud. That Tyler Warren is a tremendous. I mean, 6'7", terrific athlete, wonderful hands, good blocker. Going to be a big player. There's a lot of tight ends in this draft. The Michigan guy is really good. Loveland. There's probably 3 first-round tight ends in this draft, which is a lot. They need a couple of things. They need to refurbish, but they can go from 5 wins to 11 wins like that if the coaching's right and they do the right things. The first thing is keep Rodgers. I hope they do. I really hope they do. Now, I haven't done anything yet, but I've been hysterical watching the just hysteria about the Luka trade. Now, hey, first of all, people overreacted insanely, but you expect that on this kind of trade. It's a big trade. Use your noodle. When you see the trade and you see what was exchanged and you add it all up, it clearly tells you that Dallas was making a bold and rather definitive statement about Luka. And it wasn't good what they were saying. They were like, we are not risking $300 million on this guy with what we know and who he is and what his habits are. They know more than anyone else does about him. And they didn't want him. Now, does that mean he can't change? No. Does that mean they were 100% right? No. Top players have been traded before. First of all, Davis is a really good player. Now, he's older. He gets hurt, but Luka doesn't dance every dance. Was I puzzled? All right, you want to go through the how dare they do this without shopping him around? Well, they decided not to. They had a guy they wanted. So what? Wherever they traded him, there was going to be some outrage. No, they weren't going to get fair value for him because they were making a statement about him that was negative, that was completely negative, and they were basically selling the Lakers on, hey, we're not going to get as much, we know we're not going to get as much as you think for him because here, A, B, C, D, E. Now, those who, and I've seen this, think that the Lakers are now a championship team. I mean, what? You can forget that. Oklahoma City is going to the finals. I will be stunned if anybody else goes to the finals out of the West except Oklahoma City. Stunned. And I don't think this is a wonderful combination. LeBron James is never at his best when he doesn't have the basketball. Now, the LeBron James who played at the Garden the other night doesn't exist. He exists in a time capsule once in a while. He can't do that every night anymore. He shouldn't be able to. He's over 40 years old. But that guy who went out and gave you 33, 12, and 11 or whatever it was, He's not there every day. He's not capable of that anymore. Look at this team, and you're going to tell me that that's team, their championship, you know, chances just multiplied dramatically. Oh, really? In what world? I don't win any championship with this team. And this is a case where both players clearly want to operate with the basketball. Now, everyone can tell me that this is now Luka's team. I don't know how that works when LeBron James is still in the building. Will it be now? I'm sure they'll be very good to each other, say the right things, act the right way, you know. But it's not a great pairing in terms of because when you look at it, when you put one of them in the other spot, they're not comfortable. I mean, they can do it, but it's not their best. It's not who they are. Now we know who's going to get the ball, who's going to have the ball. But the point is, more one and one doesn't always equal two. Sometimes it equals 1.5. Sometimes it equals 3. It depends on what works and what doesn't work. But they're going to be a woeful defensive team. Davis, LeBron's not a defender anymore. He used to be a really good defender. He's not anymore. No Davis, no Christie, who's a good defender. I tell you, if I could find a place, I tell you, I've said for a while the guy I wanted for the Knicks. Now you couldn't get him, but the guy I wanted for the Knicks, other than a big guy, which you can't find, but they need another player on the bench badly, as we know. Now this is with OG. We're going on the idea that he's not badly hurt. If he's badly hurt, we'd say it's a different conversation. Whitmore would have been. I said this a couple weeks ago. Whitmore would be perfect as their sixth man. They're not gonna be able to get him. You saw him last night get 18 points at the Garden off the bench. He gets as explosive as anybody could be in the league off the bench. But Christie would be a really good if you had Christie and McBride and Achua. Now all of a sudden, and hopefully Robinson, then the bench all of a sudden is a very different team. See, if they don't get Robinson back and healthy, they're going nowhere in the playoffs. Robinson is the most important piece because they're not going to be able to trade for anybody who is going to help them in terms of they might be able to get a body that they can put in the rotation. I'm sure they will try, but and I hope they're not making a trade for Durant because I will hate that. I would not even consider it if they ever considered that. I would be so upset with them if they even contemplated breaking that up and putting Durant in there. Not a Durant guy. So they need clearly depth, which they don't have, and they desperately need a big. They need a rim protector in the worst way. They need a rebounder in the worst way. They need someone who gives them some defense from size standpoint. And Robinson can do that. Now the question is he going to be healthy at all? I don't know. Hopefully he is because he holds the key. Without him, this team will have some really good nights in the playoffs where it just devastates its opponent because the ball is going down, but they're not going anywhere. They don't have a deep enough rotation against quality teams, and they don't have the ability to protect the rim, and they don't have the ability to shut off their glass, and that wins. No rebounds, no rings. Guy down in Miami said that a couple of years ago. No rebounds, no rings. They are desperately weak. Now, like I said, there are nights when Towns hasn't looked as good since the thumb injury. He's clearly not going at 100%. You hope the OG injury is not bad. They have a lot of versatility and a lot of firepower because they have four different guys who can get 40 points, and that's highly unusual. Almost never happens on a team. Usually have two guys max who can really score. They have four guys who can get 40 points. And Bridges can get it any night he wants. See, Bridges is if you knew Bridges is a very passive, very laid back kind of guy. That's who he is. That's who he's always been. He's the antithesis of Hart. And but he has so much ability. Could be if he wanted to force the issue, he can get 40 any night out. Anytime they need him to pick up the scoring load, he could take over and pick up the scoring load anytime he wants. And that's something that they really it's a weapon that can be there on a given night. But they don't have enough depth, they don't have enough size. They desperately need it. And size you're not going to get somewhere. You're not going to get a rim protector somewhere. It's not going to happen. But back to the deal. The deal obviously is an indictment of the lifestyles, the work ethic, the conditioning, the future instincts of what Dallas had. And Cuban had nothing to do with this. Remember, it's not Cuban's team anymore. I can't believe people blaming Cuban. He has nothing to do with this. They clearly did not want to. They said, if we give this guy all this money, it's going to be a nightmare. They thought he was going to go basically take the money and be very, very content rather than be driven and hungry and keep himself in phenomenal shape, which is what great players do. Look at LeBron James. Agonizingly work immensely to keep themselves in great shape. But Dallas is an interesting team where all the pieces right now, they'll like Christie is a bad team for him. He's going to lose minutes there. That's why I hope they would trade him. I'd be knocking on the door if I were the Knicks. I'd love to get my hands on him. Bring him off the bench would be really good. He defends, he makes threes, he shoots 37% from three, and he can D up. Tibbs would love him. And they need another body that can get minutes. Achua is okay. He can do the job as a reserve. They need one more really valuable guy. And I tell you, getting Robinson back would be enormous because of what he brings. He's the best offensive rebounder in the league, and he can be the rim protector that you need if he can be healthy. Right now, they are a team that's going to rely on offense, which is not the mentality of their coach. Not that they don't have some defenders, they do. We know what Bridges can do. We know what OG can do. But they are not the force they were. They do not rebound the same way. They can't keep people off their offensive glass, and they can't protect their rim right now. Now, is Dallas a threat with that team? No, but it's not a terrible team. You wonder why the kid from Tennessee didn't go in the trade? Well, because Lakers have to pay him a ton of money, and obviously they want to unload him. Could they have shopped him around the league and gotten more? Yes. Did the league want him to go to the Lakers? Obviously, yes. Is the league in trouble right now? Yes. Is that an issue here? It probably isn't, but the league wasn't unhappy that he went to the Lakers. I can promise you that. That league's at its best when they can flash the Celtics Lakers in prime time. It's just the way it is. It's still what it's about. Knicks help, but right now that league is in a lot of trouble. The product stinks. The league's in big trouble. Their regular season has been completely devalued. When you got a commissioner talking about fewer games and cutting quarters to 8 to 10 minutes, and then inviting female players to join their 3-point shooting because she's an attraction on TV, that's a major indictment. Major indictment. Is it an equal trade? No. Did they unload him? Yes. They didn't want to pay him. They didn't want him to be their future, and they didn't want to be married to him forever and pay him astronomical dollars and deal with him. They were sick of him. Clearly. Case closed. We'll see if they're right. They'll see if they're wrong. They were sick of him. And they showed it by unloading him the way they did. Does it make the Lakers great? No, it gives the Lakers a start for the future. But then, is this team great? No. Oklahoma City's winning. They are winning. Okay, they are going to the finals, and they might win the whole thing, but they are going to the finals where they're going to get a good team. But right now, as built, Knicks aren't beating Cleveland or Boston the way they're built right now. They're not. They need improvements. All right, a couple things before I get to the emails. Number one, let me remind you what's coming up this weekend. Well, I think you already know it. And where is my? I need to find my spot. Let's see what I got here. Where did it go? I lost it. Apologize for this. I'm looking for the spot. There we go. All right. Here we go. I knew I had it. Bet on the big game. You know what the big game is, right? I think so. Bet on the big game with Bet Rivers Sportsbook and earn a chance to be one of 5,900 players to win prizes in the big game 59K bonus bet giveaway. Check out the Bet Rivers app for full details. So, hey, big game. I think you know what that is. You get 5,900 chances to be a winner. That's a pretty good deal. Pretty good odds. Go to the 59K bonus bet giveaway. Check it out. Bet Rivers app for all the details. Now, Mike Francesa podcast at gmail.com. I'll give you a chance to get in there and give me some emails. Here we go. So you can just send the Mike Francesa podcast at gmail.com. Rodgers starts us off. As an older sports fan, and I hear from a lot of older fans stop me. And, they always say something nice like, oh, I miss your show, blah, 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 blah. They really have trouble with the technology. I say, well, here's where you can find me. And they're like, oh, gee, I don't even know how to turn on the radio. I'm like, you got to, there's a new, I was that way. And I'm still bad. And I'm lucky enough to have kids that, like every other kid are a whiz at this stuff. But when they're at school, I can still struggle, with the technology. But I have Mons and I have Afria come to the house and whoever else comes to the house and they can fix things because I can't do any of it. But the older fans have to be able to get with the podcasts and get with the new world and stuff like that. I know they just want to go in the car and turn the radio on. You gotta live and learn. All right, Roger. As an older sports fan, I enjoy comparing athletes from different eras. Not statistical comparisons, but in style of play. Here are several a friend and I came up with, and we would appreciate your thoughts. Okay. Juan Soto / Ted Williams. Well, we both know that they will never expand their strike zone. They have great eyes at the plate. They walk enormously. Juan Soto is not Ted Williams. Now, I never saw Ted Williams play in person. I only saw him on highlights. Okay. The splendid Splinter obviously is considered by many to be the best offensive player of all time. Um, Juan Soto was probably a 290 lifetime hitter. Ted Williams was a 344 lifetime hitter. Different world. Larry Bird, Luka Doncic. I don't listen. Luke is a wonderful player. Um, I don't like to compare many people to Larry Bird. They both can do some wonderful things. They're different. I mean, Larry was a much more, you know, played a different game. Was a brilliant rebounder. Um, wasn't a great defender, but was a very good team defender. Wasn't a very good individual defender, but anticipated very well. There are very few people. Luke is a great player. Bird's a great player. You know, they're two great players. They're different. Mahomes and Starbuck, again, different eras. See, Roger Starbuck is my all time favorite football player. Bill Belichick and I share that in common. Now he grew up at Navy. That's why Roger was his guy. I loved Roger Staubach at Navy with the Cowboys. Um, I used to follow him when he was even in the services as he was waiting. You know, he was a seventh round pick of the Cowboys because they took him knowing they had to wait to get him back because he had to serve his time. They sent him the playbook and blah blah blah, and then he had to come back. And think about it: if he goes straight from Navy into the pros, he might be considered the greatest player of all time, the greatest quarterback of all time. That's how good he was. Um, Mahomes is gifted. He's not as he's not as good an athlete as Roger, and because Roger was an insanely good athlete, but he's as instinctive. Here's what Mahomes. Here's what you say about Mahomes. He wins. Case closed. He wins. Is he blessed with a great coach? Yes. Is he blessed with a really good defense? Yes. Does he have talent around him? Yes. He wins. We all know that come Sunday, if they get the ball and there's 2 minutes and 10 seconds on the clock and they have three timeouts or two timeouts and they're down 4 points, he's going to put them in the end zone. There isn't anybody in America that doesn't think he's going to put them in the end zone. If they're even and he gets the ball, or down 2 and he gets the ball, he's going to drive them for the winning points. None of us would expect him to do anything else. That's how conditioned we are by him. And on those drives, he is in complete command of his offense. He knows the plays are well scripted. He knows that they've run through all this. They've run through all their options. They've run through everything. They sat in a room the night before, either Friday night or Saturday night, and they went through every one of these scenarios. There's 2 minutes left. We're on the 20. Here we go. What's our starter? What are we going to start with? Blah, blah, blah. And, you know, Joe Montana told me, I'll never forget this. He said, I always felt that the drive starter, the game winning drive, the play that starts it is very important. He said, I always wanted a play. Didn't have to be a big explosive play, but it's a play that get everybody moving, get my offense moving, get the defense backing up, get your 5 yards, get your 6 yards, throw it in the flat, get everything moving. Doesn't have to be a big play, doesn't even have to get a first down, but it starts. It's not a negative play. It's a play that gets the inertia going in the right direction. And I sense that with the Chiefs, that they know I'm going to take this, I'm going to take this, I'm going to take 7, I'm going to have 3rd and 2. I know on 3rd and 2 that I have the run pass option. I know that my quarterback can run for this first down. I'm going to give him this look. He knows if it's not there, take it down, pull it down, and run it. He knows when to run. He knows when not to run. He knows. And nobody moves up in that pocket more definitively, in a more commanding way than Mahomes does. He moves up in that pocket to make a play so many times. Watch that on Sunday, how much he moves up in the pocket to make the play. And he's just completely in command of everything he does and everything the team needs to do. And it's there. Ding, dong, ding, dong. And would you expect anything else? Here's what the Eagles need to do. If they want to win this thing, be up 2 scores. When you kick the ball back to him with 2:30 left, be up 2 scores. That's how you win the game. You have 1 score, good luck. Now, to me, the game, everyone's going to talk about, can they tackle Barkley? They can tackle Barkley. To me, this game comes down to really the defensive line of the Eagles against the Chiefs' offensive line and those very vulnerable tackles. And with Thune to tackle, he's a great guard. He's a mediocre tackle. The other tackle is a human penalty flag, and he's a terrible player. They will get protected. They will be fortified. They will go to the 3-step drop. They will use all the little things. They'll use their crossing patterns. They'll get rid of the ball quickly. They do all the things that they use the middle of the field. They do all the things that you expect them to do. And I'm looking forward to this too. I'm looking forward to Brady. You know, I was not a big believer in Brady as an announcer. First of all, I figured that he was going into ownership. He'd only be there 1 year. He sounds like he wants to stay in the business, but I don't see how he does with all the restrictions that he has on him. Like, I'd like to know. And I really think it should be mentioned. So somebody needs to ask Tom Brady there this week, who is covering that sport in that game, and gets to talk to Tom this week. Ask him how he prepared for this game, because he is not allowed to do the things that regular analysts do. He doesn't get to meet with the coaches. He doesn't get to go inside the facility. He doesn't get all those things because he is part of the Raiders hierarchy. So how does he prepare for a Super Bowl? To me, he would be compromised dramatically. Now, on the plus side, here is a player who has prepared for this game his whole life, has won this game so many times. Nobody is in a better position than that. Tom is in his first year, and they made him a lead guy in his first year, which is patently unfair to begin with and not smart. But the thing is this: when you're paying Brady all this money, he's Tom Brady. Now, why does Fox do that? Cachet. That's really it. It's just cachet, because Tom Brady doesn't bring one extra viewer to the game. Not in an AFC title game, not in an NFC title game, not in a championship game, not in any game. Will one more viewer watch the game because Tom's there? So why are you paying Tom all that money? Because you want to be associated with Tom. You want Tom on your team. Tom is the NFL. He is the guy. So, that's why they want it, because they're paying him an absurd amount of money. First of all, I don't think he's ever going to be great. He's not going to be one of the all-time greats at this. He doesn't have a great voice. And he's not totally comfortable. But again, listen, nobody should be the lead guy in their first year. It's not fair. So I think from that standpoint, I think Tom's done a pretty good job. And what I like from Tom, which I think is the first of all, he's got a great guy he's worked with. Kevin Burkhardt is a great guy. Okay, guy we know very well. He started doing updates on our show and working updates on the fan. I remember when he started, he was selling cars for Chevrolet while he was, part time as a guy doing updates as a fan before he got the gig with the Mets, which launched his career. It's got to be hard for him to work and bring Tom out. Tom's gotten more criticism than I think he deserves this year. You had to give him a chance to kind of settle in. He has. And what he's brought is more and more is he has told you things that you haven't heard from other analysts because of who he is. And I think that is good stuff. Now, like I said, there's only so much you can do in that job. It's not like you're going to reinvent anything in that job. You're going to analyze a football game. And there's going to be obviously a lot of scrutiny of him. But the thing I want to know is, first of all, how did he prepare? Because his preparation is so much different than anybody else's would be in that role. That's the first thing I'd like to know before we get started. I don't know that we will, but that's the first thing I'd like to know. I also want to say one other thing before I get back to the emails. I don't know if this is true or not. If this is happening, it's not anything I've heard or anything else. I don't get involved in that stuff very much. I don't know what Terry Bradshaw's future is. I don't know if he's going to keep doing this or he's going to retire. He's been doing it a very long time. But I thought since it was a Super Bowl that maybe this would be Terry's last year. I don't know. I just had this in my head. And I don't know anything, obviously. I don't know that that's his plans or Fox's plans or anything else. But if that is true, I personally will miss Terry a lot. Terry Bradshaw to me, and I love Terry Bradshaw personally. Terry Bradshaw to me is part of the fabric of this league. If the NFL is a quilt, okay, he's a corner. He's had an incredible career. He was a legendary figure as a quarterback on a dynasty. And the first two Super Bowls he won under duress. They were won by the defense, the brilliant Steeler defense, the steel curtain. And the second pair of, they won back to back and then won back to back. They won 4 in 6 years. Second two, they won because of Bradshaw and Swan and Stallworth, but because of the offense. They were no longer the same defense. They won the first two on defense. They won the second two on offense. And he has been this incredibly, colorful, playing the role of the, kind of hillbilly quarterback, you know, folksy, gee whiz kind of guy, the old dumb quarterback, can't spell cat, Terry Bradshaw, blah, 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 dumb like a fox his whole life. Yeah, really dumb like a fox. But I've been around Terry a zillion times. And I've interviewed him a bunch. And I tell you, one of the real pleasures is when I get a chance to just sit and draw stories out of him because they're unbelievable. He did a thing at the Tiller Center on Long Island where I've done a couple of events through the years. Nice place at Post, Long Island University at Post. And they have an arena that holds like 2,500 people. And it's a beautiful facility, a great facility. It's comfortable. It's like being in your living room with 2,500 people. Well, they have a side room that has about 500 seats. and he signed up to do uh, an interview series, and they brought different people from different walks of life. So he called me and he said, "Would you come out and do this night with me?" A couple of years ago, and I wish somebody had taped it because I got to basically come out and get to probe him about everything, about Noel, about his early years, about when he wanted to quit, when he thought he was no good, what he went on in his life. And, you don't realize, I mean, he wanted out of the Steelers. He lost his job a couple of times with Joe Gilliam. He lost his job. He thought Noel had quit on him. I mean, it was unbelievable. And then he goes on to be this incredible winner who wins 4 Super Bowls in 4 shots and has a great career. Does movies, he sings, he does TVs, he does TV shows. He's been on the NFL broadcast forever. I don't know why I think he's coming to the close for some reason. I just have it just dawned on me one day when I'm watching him last week. I said, maybe this is going to be it for Terry. If it is, we'll miss him. One of the all-time greats. One of the all-time greats. All right, let me get a couple more in real quick. Sean, where do you see Myles Garrett going? All right, Myles Garrett, who is one of the great defensive linemen of this generation, and as good a pure pass rusher as there is in the NFL, wants out of Cleveland. Oh, surprise! Does that mean he gets out? I don't know. If he does, where does he go? Perfect spot for him. Atlanta Falcons desperately need a pass rusher. Have a lot of talent. Get him in the NFC if you're going to trade him. Get him out of the AFC. I think Atlanta Falcons makes plenty of sense. Uh, Dougie, I know you always liked Ovechkin as an athlete. I did, yes. He's closing in on Wayne Gretzky's all-time regular season goal scoring record and should break it. Do you think that will be a big deal? I think it'll be a real big deal for him. I think what it shows is longevity. I don't think anybody thinks he's better than Gretzky. Nobody was the offensive force that Gretzky was. Gretzky rewrote the record book and changed the game. But yeah, it's a great testimony to his consistency and his greatness and his longevity. So yes, I think it's a big deal. Whose career would you rather have, Mike Piazza or Jose Posada? Piazza. Why? Because I think Piazza was better. I I I understand what you're asking. You're asking me, do you want to be a good player, a really good player, and win a lot, or be a great player and a Hall of Famer and not win very much? Um, Baseball's an individual game. Nobody wins alone in baseball. I think Mike's the best hitting catcher of all time. That's quite a label. I would say Mike's. Hey, Jorge had a great career. It's an interesting question. It's just I take either career. I'm sure anybody would. Jorge's not a Hall of Famer, but he had a wonderful career. He will be remembered forever as a Yankee catcher, and a leader, and a winner, and part of a backbone. Your catcher is a big deal of any dynasty, if you want to call the Yankees of the late '90s a dynasty. They did win an awful lot. They did win 14 World Series games in a row, which is an incredible, when you think about it, is an insane achievement. 14 World Series games in a row. The last four in 96, 98, 99, into 2000. 14 World Series games in a row. Matt, if your life was on the line and you needed one coach to lead your team, Who are you taking? Andy Reid or Bill Parcells? I say this with all sincerity. Gun to my head. If I had one game to win for my life, bullet to my head, the only coach I would take ahead of Bill Parcells was Vince Lombardi. That's it. Otherwise, I'm going with Parcells. For one game, I'm going with Parcells. Over any of them. Over Walsh, over Gibbs, over Belichick, over Landry, over Paul Brown, over any of them, except not over Vince Lombardi. There was only one Vince Lombardi. I saw that Belichick said they should change the name of the trophy to Tom Brady from Vince Lombardi. Is he out of his mind? There's only one Lombardi. Let the MVP trophy in the Super Bowl be named after Tom Brady. The championship trophy, the stand of excellence as a team, that's the Lombardi trophy. There's only one Vince Lombardi. No one has ever been as good as Vince Lombardi. We'll see you later.